Hey everybody, welcome to the channel and thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of our visit to the renowned Zion National Park. In our first video at Zion, we hiked the Narrows where we went over a summary of the park and I gave you my overall recommendation and top tips for Zion. I'll include a card in the upper right if you haven't been able to catch that video so you can learn more about the park if you would like. What we're going to do for this episode is hike along 3 of the easier hikes that still give you a great experience and can be enjoyed by the entire family. We'll also visit some of the stops off the Canyon Shuttle, in addition to visiting the east section of the park. Just to get oriented, we'll take a quick look at the park map. We're just going to pretty much stick along the scenic drive, and then we'll head over to the east. Here's a rundown of the Zion Canyon Shuttle stops, and we'll be starting on the Patriarchs Trail. The Patriarchs Trail is a newer trail within the park, and it's really more of a bike path. This hike is also wheelchair accessible, and you are allowed to have leashed pets on it. We'll take in some of the views around here. At first glance, you may think this trail isn't very exciting, but as we'll see, you can, number one, get some great photography compositions along this hike, and if you're lucky, you may come across some of the wildlife within the park. Here, it seems we stumbled across some deer. Continuing along the trail, we'll next stop at the Human History Museum with the Towers of the Virgin there in the distance. And we took a close look at these in our first episode. Again, from left to right, you have the West Temple, the Sundial, the Witch's Head, Broken Tooth, Rotten Tooth, and then finally there on the right, the Altar of Sacrifice. As I was leaving, I got a little bit of surprise because I saw there was a spider and I had to do a double take. I was like, is that a tarantula? And guess what? It is. They have tarantulas at Zion National Park. I couldn't believe it. So this guy was very friendly and photogenic, and we'll hang out with him for a minute or two here. I appreciate him so much for posing for me there. Again, the great thing about this trail is that it more or less runs right along the Virgin River, and there are quite a few areas where you can get river access, and that allows you to hunt around for some interesting photography compositions. What do we have here? Is this video becoming an arachnophobia sequel? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's mating season for tarantulas, but the Park Service says you're lucky if you only see one of these guys. And here we have 2 all on the same hike. So if you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would please give me a like, and please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks so much. Tarantulas are considered to be the largest spider in the American Southwest, and despite their reputation, tarantulas here are not considered to be poisonous to humans. We'll leave him to continue hunting for some grasshoppers or beetles, or maybe he was searching for a mate. But again, just so lucky to see another one of those. Not quite sure what these bees are here, but they were really out in force also. If you've been to Zion and have a favorite hike you would like to share, I'd really love to read about those in the comments below. Thanks so much. The Powers Trail ends at the Canyon Junction. I'm actually going to hop on one of the shuttles to make it a little bit easier on myself, but you can continue to bike past this point. I did see where there was this huge boulder on the side of the road where they have the historical marker for the Zion Tunnel. The first shuttle stop past the Canyon Junction is the Court of the Patriarchs, where you can see from left to right Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which are 3 towering sandstone cliffs, of course named after 3 biblical figures. Our next stop on the scenic drive is the famous, or maybe infamous, Angel's Landing, which rises almost 1,500 feet from the canyon floor. As we discussed in the last episode, I have a difficult time with heights, and based on some previous hikes I've done, I know I just can't do Angel's Landing. Again, we'll see if the channel can get monetized. On the other side of Angel's Landing, there's the Great White Throne, and if you're like me and don't want to hike along 1,000-foot sheer cliffs, an alternative to Angel's Landing would be Observation Point, which is directly across the canyon from Angel's Landing. Our next stop is going to be at the very end of the scenic drive, which is our number 2 family-friendly hike, and that's going to be the Riverside Walk, which begins at the Temple of Siniwava, which is the final stop along the scenic drive. This hike continues from the Temple of Siniwava until you reach the Narrows, which at that point you would have to cross the Virgin River there. We completed this hike in part 1 of our visit to Zion, so I won't go in depth on the Riverside Walk, but it's another great way to experience more of the canyon without having to gain any elevation. Coming back down the scenic drive, we'll stop at our 3rd family-friendly hike, which is the Lower Emerald Pools Trail. This hike begins at the Zion Lodge, or you can also start it at the Grotto stop, and leads you to the lowest of 3 successive pools that are fed by seasonal waterfalls which stream down the canyon walls. There are 2 additional pools on this hike. It's not too difficult to continue to those pools, but that does involve some additional elevation gain. This is kind of like a scene that you would see out of a movie or maybe in a novel or something, with the water just streaming down the canyon walls. It's really incredible. Now, don't go anywhere just yet. That is going to complete our 3 family-friendly hikes in Zion for if you want to have a nice, easy day in the park. We'll take in some views here along the riverbed as the sun is setting along the canyon walls. And now we'll head over to the east of the park. But first, I had to get sunrise for you guys, and on our third day in the park, we're going to get started at the Human History Museum, which we've visited 3 times now, and we're going to take in the amazing colors of the canyon that is just being so wonderfully lit up by the morning sun. The Towers of the Virgin are just such a spectacular sight as they are lit up by the rising sun, and seeing these park icons at sunrise definitely qualifies as a magic moment. Now we're going to turn east and we're going to head up the Zion Mount Carmel Highway. Along the way, you can't miss the Great Arch. The Great Arch is nearly 400 feet across, so it's huge, but it's actually not a freestanding arch. However, maybe over a period of many, many years with some additional erosion, the Great Arch could actually become the second longest freestanding arch in the world. Now we're going to move over to the east side of the park, which is accessed by passing through the Zion Tunnel. What I noticed on the east side of the park is you do have some more color striations in the rocks over here, and I believe that's because you're at a higher elevation with a different layer of rocks. Some of the rocks here sort of resemble the wave in Arizona or the fire wave in Valley of Fire. Here's the Checkerboard Mesa, which rises about 900 feet. Zooming in, I noticed this herd of bighorn sheep. Really cool seeing these guys. And with that, we're going to head out of Zion National Park. I appreciate you so much for joining me for this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks and take care. Bye.